Hey gang, welcome back to our corner of the internet. If this is your first video, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you like what you see, give this video a like, subscribe so you can check out more. This video is the first in a series that I'm calling the Soft series. Basically, that just is Sherry Oliver's favorite things. It sounded cool. I thought it was cute. I actually, a few years ago, had a soft photography. So it was like photography of my favorite things. If you scour Facebook, you can still find that. There's some old, really beginner photos there, but they are there if you want to check them out. So this first video is my favorite books. Obviously, this isn't all-time favorites. This is the favorites of what I have read between January and now. I have the opportunity to listen to audiobooks pretty frequently depending on what I'm doing. And so I've been listening to audiobooks a ton the last year or so. I'll talk about the app I use for that in the next video. But this one, we're just gonna go into my favorite books of the first half of 2019. First on the list is the Cinder series. I know I'm behind the times on this one, but I just haven't had time to buy the books. But I did find them on my library app, so I got to listen to the whole series. And I was fairly impressed. Oh, hi, baby. This is what happens when you film at home in the morning. Good morning, Bubba. Our CP. We'll be back. Okay, let's jump right back in. I think I was talking about the Cinder series. So this one is 4 books and an extra novella that are set in a futuristic world where people also live on Earth and the moon. And it has 4 books that go through 3 different women, and they're all based on fairy tale characters. Obviously Cinder is Cinderella, and it goes on from there. I thought that it was really cute and fun and also really interesting and dynamic. You have what I'm seeing a lot more of lately, which is a blend of characters who have their own agency and are independent and can take care of themselves, but also sometimes find romance, because that does well in YA books. And so you get a little bit less of the helpless damsel, but you still have some kind of relational engagement that adds to the story. So I felt like that one was really good. I really ended up loving the world that she created based on the setting for all of these women. I thought that that was very ingenious, and I feel like I'm just gonna be seeing, or right now what is being popular, was popular when these books came out, is a lot of that fantasy twist where it's like reality plus a little. This one didn't really have magic. It just had an extra level of industry and mechanical ability and things like that. It wasn't really, I wouldn't call it magic. Even the loners, the people who live on the moon, who have this extra ability to kind of control perceptions and like the visual of reality, almost seemed like an extra genetic thing. It didn't really feel like magic to me. So I thought that was an interesting way to, bring in a different element. Next up, we have the Red Queen series. This one is a 4-parter that is set in a world where there are, it's very interesting because the way that the industry and like the economy works is very almost medieval, I would say. And it's got that a really strict class system, but they have weapons and vehicles and airplanes and stuff, so it's kind of got, they've moved forward but also not moved forward in different ways. So I thought that was an interesting mesh. But that one is follows one girl throughout the whole books, but it tells different, the perspective changes. So you'll have different characters as it goes on who will give their perspective, and so as it'll change chapter to chapter, you'll see where it changes in tone to the perspective. But it was really intense. It was one of those stories that I loved, but I also got really mad at it a lot. So that was enjoyable. It was really interesting to see this idea of people. It was like one of those, another blood thing where you have to have certain blood to be special. And so there's people who are silver, who have silver blood, who innately have abilities, and then reds who typically don't have abilities, and then the new bloods who are reds that actually have abilities. And if you have a system where one type of person rules over another type of person, and then you have this new mesh of the two that has abilities but isn't silver, it causes all kinds of stuff. And it was very interesting. And that one even expands a little bit out of, like, say you have a globe that this world is a country or a region of the world on. There are regions outside of it and regions that come into play that have a different structure. And so I thought that that was really dynamic. It had a lot of layers. And so all 4 books there were really good. There's Red Queen, and then it goes all the way to War Storm is the one that I just finished. And that one was another series that I was really impressed with. The last series on the list is a total guilty pleasure, just like really fun, cute, sweet girl series. I actually think it's called the Girl series. So you have Party Girl, Sweet Girl, Smart Girl. I think it goes in that order. And those are actually the fiction novels that are written by Rachel Hollis. She wrote those several years ago, but I found them on Audible. I was super excited to be able to get them that way and listen to them on audiobook, and she narrates those books, so that was really cool. You get a little bit more of like the personality behind each character because she is created those personalities, so she gets to kind of do the tone differently for each character. And so that one follows 3 girls that all become friends in LA, and it's just like a total summer read, guilty pleasure, cute series. It's very sweet. I was really surprised how engaging and like attached I got to the characters, considering there wasn't all of the detailed layers that I usually like with fantasy. So that's a really good series to listen / read to. The last fiction book on the list is called Neverworld Wake. This is one that I just found through suggestions on my library app, because I was trying to find a different audiobook to listen to, and it is intense. I was surprised, and when I first started reading it, I was like, oh gosh, this is gonna be really sad and intense. And it is sad, but it's, I couldn't even tell you how long the time frame is that this book takes place in, even though most of it really just takes place in 1 second. So it's a group of friends. They have the year before lost a member of their friend group, and they've come together kind of unexpectedly on a whim, and end up stuck in this alternate universe where they're not dead yet, but probably will be. It's a weird spot where you have this guy who comes up, and basically they're gonna live the 5-hour, they have like, I don't know, it starts out with like, they have a certain period of time, less than a day, that they'll relive over and over again until they vote and decide who gets to live. Only 1 person out of the 5 of them will get to live, and the other 4 are going to die. But until they vote unanimously, but for 1, so 4 out of the 5 people all have to pick the same person to stay alive, or to come back to life. They're gonna live that same day over and over again. And it's very interesting because you think when you live the same day over and over again that you wouldn't have much agency, but what happens is that part of a day that they can do whatever they want. People can see them, react to them. They have total control to interact with the universe. They can tell people, like their family or whoever, what's going on, but the wake will come and they will fall asleep. Even if they try to stay awake as much as possible, it'll just kind of suck them down, and then they start back over again regardless of what they did. So it was really interesting. It had lots of deep layers. The boy who had previously died out of their friend group was a big part of that storyline, and I read it pretty quickly because it was really engaging. It was hard to read in a couple of places, just if you're in a space where grief is still kind of close, then maybe wait and read that when you're in a better space. So because it is talking about death and choices and all that stuff, so there were parts of it where I was like, oh, that's really intense, but I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'll probably read it again because it was very unique. I have 3 books that I've read this year so far that I have to recommend that are nonfiction. So if you love fiction and aren't really big on nonfiction, we're done. I'll check you later. But I want to talk about 3 different books. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up because the last one may take a minute. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Talk Like Ted. So this one is a book that a gentleman wrote where he goes through and he interviewed and researched and looked at like what makes a good TED speaker and what TED speakers in the past have done, and how that has which ones really like threw them into the stratosphere as far as videos being received well and things like that. So it pulls out these ideas and tips for like encouragement and like a practical way to add to your speaking ability, whether it's speaking in public or speaking at work or whatever. So I found it really interesting, especially if you're like me and you really like doing videos, but you're not so great at talking in general. My social anxiety is a totally different side of me than me just talking to my camera, even though I know anybody could watch it. It's just easier to just talk straight ahead. But I think that the skills and the ideas that he talked about really would help for both things, for social and for if you're doing a presentation or a video or whatever. So I would highly recommend that one. And then the second one is called Mindset. This is by Carol, no, I should know the name because Rachel Hollis talks about this book a lot, but I finally listened to Mindset. And that one's another one that has lots of research and case studies that has a lot to do with positivity and productivity and how we can train our brains and teach our kids to have a growth mindset. This is a huge deal if you want to evolve and change and grow and get better at whatever you're doing in life. I've found that I definitely have been in the perspective of a fixed mindset where what I'm good at is all I think I'm good at, and that's not true. I've listened to tons of stuff by like Mel Robbins and a couple other people about the brain and how the brain continues to grow and evolve, and like finds like when it comes to the brain. So the more you tell your brain what it can do, the more it can do those things. So that growth mindset, the idea that you're always trying, like you're gonna praise and give a lot of value to effort that people or your kids do, not the ability, because then if they fail and they feel like they don't have that ability anymore. That's a very simplified version of that, but those are two of the big things that I took out of reading that book. So I would recommend it. If you have a brain, you should read it. And the last book is Girl Stop Apologizing, which just hit 1 million books sold, so you've probably heard of it, or at least I know a fair amount of people have heard of it, obviously, or have bought it. It's the follow-up to Girl Wash Your Face, which Rachel Hollis put out last March, I believe. Or was that? Yeah, I think it was just last year, because I've been following her for about 2 years now, so right before the book came out. And so this book just came out in the spring, and it's a good, like, you could easily read it fast kind of thing. It's not a huge book, but it's broken up into I think it's things to let go of, habits to adopt, and skills to acquire. Lies to let go of. I can't remember the first category, that's gonna bug me, but basically it's a practical guide to, say you've gotten on the train and you want to change your life, you want to go after that dream. How do you do it? That's basically what Girl Stop Apologizing is about. It's like, here are the things that you need. Here's the basic life skills that can catapult you should you choose to use them. So it's funny. There's all kinds of stories in there. She's really good at being the one to say the silly thing or tell the embarrassing story as an example to why you can keep growing and what you can learn from just like living your life. So I enjoy that tone a lot, and I thought it was very encouraging, so I recommend that one. Probably on the top of my nonfiction list for the year. We'll see what else I get into, but it's an amazing book. I'm getting ready to read it again. That's how much I like it. Okay, that's it for the first video in the soft series. I hope that you enjoyed this. Give the video a like. Let me know below if you've read any of these books or if you have a recommendation for what you've read so far this year. Next week we will be doing apps that I love. I've been making a list and it's long, so I have to pare it down. But that's what we're going to be doing next week. Look forward to that, and I will catch y'all next time. Bye.